Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hello. Welcome, all of you. All right, so I see our guest is here. So as people come in, let me add Lubna.
I hope you've been having a good week and a good week back, hey, because you had a short break last week. So I really hope that it's been going well. Hi,
Hi,
Lubna.
Lucy.
How are
Hi, how
you?
are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How's your Friday going so far?
Well, it's very busy. I actually have a meeting after this, and I had a meeting before this as well. So it's been a busy Friday, but I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak to us. We really do value your opinion, especially when it comes to equipping, our students and young people to get ready for the world of work. And a big part of that being preparing well enough for interviews, whether they be virtual or face-to-face. But before we get into all of that good stuff, hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Already someone's asking, please save the live. I will do my best. I will do my best to save the live,
You're
everybody.
great. Fingers crossed.
Yes, please say a little prayer for us to do that because Instagram can be quite temperamental sometimes. But so far, we have been able to save most of our lives, so we'll definitely do that. Bulelani, I saw you. Hello, good afternoon. So, Lubna, could you maybe tell us a little bit about who you are? This isn't the first time we've seen you. You've been on our platform before during the Women in Industry series that we ran last year. But for those who might not know who you are and may not have seen that Insta Live session, could you give us an introduction of who you are a little bit?
Okay, awesome. So, hi, everyone. As Lucy said, my name is Lubna. I'm actually an HR business partner for an international company, and I do like lots of different things. So, part of it is working with HR policies, very involved with payroll. So, I do international payroll, working with the United States, Kenya, Zambia, and South Africa. And I've also done a lot of recruitment as well, especially in the last year during COVID.
Nice.
But
So you
that's
would be.
actually, yes.
Go
Yes,
ahead. Go ahead.
yes, so, yes, sorry about that. So yes, but that's actually just my day job. What I also do is I run Lumina HR. You'll see on my Instagram page as well, and that's my passion project as well. And there I assist lots of people, especially students with their CVs, interview preparations, job search coaching, those kinds of things. And so like I said, I've been involved. I've sort of been with UJ last year as well. I've also guest lectured at UCT, those kinds of things. So I'm very busy.
Love it. We love it. We love it. So you're basically one of the best people to be asking about the topic we'll be discussing today. So thank you once again. Okay, let's get started then. What is an interview? So before we even get into what a virtual interview is and how to prepare for one, how would you describe or define what an interview is?
So like bearing in mind, we're chatting to students. So when I was a student as well, most of us haven't actually been for interviews before. So I think even before we say what an interview is, that's such lovely comments going through. Sorry. But so before we even talk about what an interview is, I think it's actually important to go before that. So as a student, you would first apply for a job. So you'll see a job advert, you'll apply for a job, and if the company likes what they see on your CV, then they will call you in, or they'll call you and they'll say they'd like to set up a meeting with you. And usually, traditionally, that would be done face to face. And in the meeting, they'll ask you a bunch of questions, and it would be structured in a specific way as well. And all of those questions are basically there to assess whether you will fit well in the company and whether you have the appropriate skills or the potential to do the job that you're applying for. So
I like that.
is an interview.
Okay, so it's a meeting with an objective, and the objective is to find the best person for that position in that company. So you're basically selling yourself in that interview phase once they've actually, because it seems like they would like you enough from the CV perspective that they would see, that they want to get to know you even more face to face, and that's why you'd be called in for an interview.
Yes, definitely. And also the fact that you can't possibly represent yourself fully in that CV.
Yes.
So the interview process is there to find out, okay, and sometimes you could be fully qualified, you have all the skills, but you're just not the right fit for the company on both sides. So, or your values don't align either. So it's more, it's digging deeper basically.
If you missed our CV writing session last week, please go through it. It's up on our Instagram page where Ashalia was speaking around how you can best set yourself up to have a great enough interview to actually be called in for a CV. So Lubna, in this, ever-changing world of work, what are the three maybe most popular CVs, interviews taking place at the moment, or types of interviews that are taking place at the moment?
Okay, so there are many types of interviews, but I think for our students, the most common ones, I think, would be firstly your telephonic or your pre-screening interviews, and I'll go into what that is. The second one, I think, would be your competency-based interviews. So competency could be called situational or behavioral interviews. So that is, how would you respond in a specific situation? And then I think the third one I would mention would be your technical interviews, and that's sort of assessing your technical abilities. And that in the past would be done face-to-face, but now, with the pandemic in one, a lot of this has been moved, and people are doing it virtually. So those are like the three types, and I'm happy to go into them. I don't think we have time to sort of dig deep into what each one is, but I can quickly give you a summary for your telephonic. Cool. So for telephonic or your pre-screening interviews, we're basically trying to find out, does what you say actually match the CV that we see? And so they'll ask you questions like your qualifications, how soon are you available, what are your skills, those kinds of things. It's like preliminary interviews. And then, like I said, with your competency base, we're trying to see how would you respond in specific situations? Do you have the specific kinds of skills? So an example would be, so if you are finance students, for instance, we want to see whether you have analytical skills. So we'll ask you, how would you respond in a specific situation? Like, how would you deal with that? And for technical, I'll still use the finance example. We might ask you, what Excel formula, this person needs to know Excel. What Excel formulae, are you accustomed to? So those are the types of questions that we might get.
Okay, all right. So thank you for that nice summary, and I'm sure there's even more information that can be provided. We just are trying to fit a lot of info in the time that we've got at the moment.
So I can actually tell you, so I actually wrote a few articles, especially around pre-screening telephonic interviews as well. We're actually going to detail, like, these are the 5 main questions which are probably going to be asked, and how to respond to them, and why we're asking those questions. So they can check it out on my website as well.
And we'll ask Lubna to mention her website again towards the end of the live. I see comments coming in. I see questions coming in. That is great. I will get to them towards the end. So keep asking them. Keep making your comments. Let's talk a little bit of what we like to call the 3 Ps of interviewing, which is the planning, the preparation, as well as the practice phase. Could you walk us through those 3 phases and what is expected for someone to do prior to the interview?
Okay, so now we'll go back to our example. We are students, we just applied for a role, and we got called by the company, and now we need to plan because we've been called in, or we're going to do this virtually, either way. So the preparation, I think the planning is, similar in terms of planning and preparation as well. There are differences, and we'll go into that later on. But I think in terms of planning, first thing you should be doing is researching the company. Who is the company that's interviewing you? And you'll look at like basic stuff. So for example, what industry are you in? So I can tell you that I once had a candidate, and it was a senior candidate, and he kept on going on. I asked him, like, what is his interest in the company? And he kept on going on about, we're doing so well in the engineering industry, and we're making waves. And that would have been well we were in the engineering industry, we were in healthcare. So this guy kept on talking about this industry, and we weren't even in that industry. And I promise you, like, yes, once. And it's a senior person, so don't feel like, okay, it's, it can only happen to students. You get some weird and wonderful stories as well. And you have to kind of still keep your poker face and, still be professional and try to not let that impact your perception of the person. But I can tell you, it's not a good idea to guess the industry. You should be knowing that it's basic information.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So know your company. Just basic details: how big is the company, what industry they're in. Check their values out. That's a good one. Their mission, their values, because then in your interview you can talk about. They ask you why are you interested in coming to this to working for us. Then you can actually talk about your values, and you can say, you know what, you talk about the value of serving a mission greater than yourself, and this is how I feel about it too. And in this example, when I go do volunteer work, I believe it's serving a mission greater than myself. So you can see how you can connect your experiences and your values to the company's values, and that's how we check whether you're the right fit for the company. So number one, know your yes. So there's a lot more. So the second one, I would say, in terms of planning, would be your location. Know the location. So for example, if you are traveling with your own car, then you should find out if there's parking space, if you're going to need to park further away, and then consider that time into, when you plan when to be there for your interview. But if you're taking public transport, it's still important, because, you need to check, okay, where am I going to stop off? Do I need to walk from this place to that place? How long is that going to take? So knowing your location as well is very important, and being punctual. That helps you to be punctual, and it also shows us that, if you come late, it also kind of indicates poor planning on your end. If it's, due to circumstances you could have prevented. And I think the third thing, so I won't go this lots of things.
Now with that. So I do agree that coming in late shows poor planning on the end of the interviewee. But I'm just wondering, do companies take that into consideration if they literally call someone a day before and they haven't really given a person enough time to prepare things such as transportation? Would that be taken into consideration should they arrive a little bit late?
So I think in that case, what you could rather do is, if you need more time, is rather ask, you know what, I can't make, it's a bit too short notice. Can we do it like, if today is Monday, can we rather do it on Wednesday or Thursday? I'm not available. And rather do it in that way. And I'll tell you why, because sometimes we have back-to-back interviews. Or sometimes we have meetings after that interview. So we're not in a position to give you the extra time if you sort of into your interviewing time. Okay. And if you eat into your interview time as well, then, you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself, because now, there's less time for you to make a good impression.
Right. Okay, so rather ask for a rescheduling of the interview as opposed to assuming you'll get more time on that day. Okay, all right. Yes. That's all I wanted to ask. Go ahead. You were continuing to talk about the planning phase.
Yes. So I'm going to mention one more thing. There's lots, but I'm going to mention one more thing that's like very important, and I think that is dress code. So as you can see, so let me give you an example of why that's important, right? So say, for example, so you and I are basically having an interview now. If I had to pitch up to this interview wearing my hoodie, didn't comb my hair, makeup's all smudged, would you take me seriously? Would you think that I'm a professional and that I'm an expert in my field and that I know what I'm talking about?
No, not really. So, no.
Not really, exactly. So it's all about perception. It's all about marketing yourself and leaving a good impression. So regardless of whether the company is like a chilled, so you do get, especially the tech companies, they're very chilled. You'll see that, your CTO will come in shorts and wear like slippers and stuff like that. So even if you're applying to a company that's very laid back, when you're going for your interview, I would still advise that you dress up because you're trying to leave an impression. And it also psychologically prepares yourself for, for the space. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that, and then I'd also tell you that it doesn't mean wearing a suit and a tie. It just means looking neat. And also, very importantly, be comfortable in the clothes that you're in. If you are comfortable in your clothes, if you're comfortable with your clothes, then you'll be able to sort of be more confident and sort of deliver, whatever you need to, and it really helps with your perception, perception that you are actually giving off. And I will tell you, just be careful. I actually know of a candidate that once, so she came in for an interview and she had a super tight skirt on, and in the middle of the interview, that skirt ripped.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. So be comfortable.
Sure.
That's what I mean by be comfortable. Like, if you're not comfortable in something, change. Don't, and make sure that things are fitting properly, because instead of focusing now on the interview, she was distracted by the fact that she needed to like fix her skirt. So you can see why this is important.
Right. Shu, so no wonder the planning phase is important. Know these things beforehand. So don't assume because you've got a certain item in your cupboard that you generally wear that it still fits. Put it on and see if it will, be ironed. Oh, ironed. No, Flame says, make sure it's ironed and not wrinkled. Correct. So iron your clothing, everyone. Don't just put on clothes.
Unless you're wearing and it's supposed to look wrinkled like what I'm wearing right now, then it's fine.
I'm gonna jump on that a little bit, even though it was going to be a question that I would have asked a little bit later. But if we're talking about dress code and virtual interviews, there's almost this perception that because I'm at home, I'm relaxed, I can only dress professionally from the top down. So the parts of me that can be seen on screen. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and why it's actually important to be fully dressed even for a virtual interview?
So I think pre-COVID, I would have said, no, it's not important, just dress, the top half is fine. But this question actually reminds me of one of the interviews I sat in last year, where one of the participants actually got up mid-interview to swat a fly. And what she didn't realize is that we all saw her bright orange underwear as she did that. Wow. And yes, like literally, and it was like, and I mean, you just don't know how to respond. So we like basically just pretended like that we didn't see it was happening, and she was completely unaware. And
wow.
we all know what we saw.
Wow.
So yes. So whether you never know, you might be having to pick up a pen, closing the door because there's noise, something like that. You might be in a situation where you have to get up, and people would then see what you're wearing or not wearing at the bottom. So please put on pants, people, or skirts.
That's interesting that she wasn't even aware that her getting up means that you would actually see the rest of her body, and that she would, be seen in her underwear. Did she ever call back and ask? I don't know if she got the job or not, but if she didn't, did she ever call back and get some kind of feedback to find out why she perhaps didn't get the job?
So I understand why she was not aware, because at the time there was like this insect that was sort of, do you understand, like distracting. And, if it was like a bee or something, I can tell you if there was a bee flying here right now, I would just be like, Lucy, I just need to save myself first, and then I will get back. So I think she got a fright, and, this was distracting her and stuff. And yes, we do actually, I think a good recruiter would then go and give people feedback. You get, not all recruiters or companies do that, but I think like, your sort of ones that go out of their way would then, tell them. And so she did know afterwards.
Okay.
But at the time we just needed the flow to go, and you don't want to, that's the other thing. So we don't want to also kind of, we know that you are nervous. and we know that
Yeah.
that it can be stressful. So you don't want
Right.
to sort of bring this to their attention, because it might sort of distract them, and then they lose their focus. So we wait till afterwards.
Yeah, you were all really nice recruiters. You were like, ignore it and keep going, and we'll tell her afterwards. I like that. Okay, let's get into virtual interviews now. So what is a virtual interview, and is it any different from the definition you gave in the beginning of the, my summary is that it's a meeting with an objective. What is a virtual interview?
So I think that I don't necessarily think that there's much of a difference between a face-to-face and a virtual interview. The only difference is that instead of going to the company or meeting somewhere face-to-face, you're doing this over the internet. So
Right.
yeah, so what we're doing right now, this is a virtual interview. We're doing it over Insta Live. You can do it over a Zoom call. Sometimes where there's, in the rural areas, for example, sometimes they genuinely don't have good connectivity, and you'll do it as a telephonic interview, but it's not preferable. So yeah, so it's basically same thing, but done, over the internet and with, this distance.
And so recently I had a friend who I had spoken to, and she'd gone for a virtual interview, and she'd done quite a few, but this particular interview, they asked her to actually prepare a presentation on what strategies she would implement in the position if she got it. Is that becoming more common with regards to whether it is virtual or, face-to-face, but is it common to be asked to prepare some kind of 10-minute presentation on what strategies will be implemented by you within that position?
So definitely, so regardless of whether it's face-to-face or virtual, you can get asked to do presentations. I think like asking about strategy, that's a little more higher level. So for students, they might not be asked to plan strategies per se, but you can be asked, and that's sort of part of the technical interviews that I was talking about. So where you can be asked to prepare something as well. And I think that in terms of preparing, so you prepare in the same way that you would for a face-to-face interview. But I think the one thing that you need to maybe practice is knowing how to share your screen. Because if it's like a PowerPoint presentation, they need to see that. And so it's, just practice beforehand, working with whatever platform they're using, whether it's Microsoft Teams, whether it's Zoom. Teams works very similar to Zoom. And, just knowing how to share your screen. And there's a difference between sharing a screen and sharing a window, which is just one document, for example. So practicing that. But yes, it is common.
Okay. With regards to the technical interviews or even the competency interviews, is there a way to answer them, or is there a way to prepare yourself on how to not just ramble on an answer, but to actually work through, like if I write an article, I know I have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Is there sort of a strategy on how to answer competency and technical questions?
Definitely. And if you Google this as well, you'll see it everywhere. I'm not sure if our students are aware of something called the STAR method. And so the STAR method is specifically around competency-based interviews. So again, don't get scared by the word competency because it's so long. It's basically saying, how do you behave in a specific situation? So let's use an example. Let's use an example that students can sort of relate to. So, say for example, when we ask these questions, we are trying to check whether you have a specific skill or not. So that skill could be teamwork, it could be, like I said, Excel skills, it could be like, do you show initiative, are you analytical? So those are skills. And usually you'll find that on the job ad, they'll say we're looking for a person and they need to have those kinds of skills. So we are trying to assess whether you have those skills or not. So with the STAR method, we use the word, so STAR, it stands for, the first word, the S stands for situation, the T stands for task, the A stands for action, and the R stands for result. So I'm going to show you how that works in an example. So for example, we might ask you a question, can you tell us about a time where you were working in a group and you didn't necessarily agree with a team member? how did you deal with that situation? So you can totally use the STAR method for this. You can, and so yeah, you won't necessarily know what skill we are assessing, but we're most likely assessing teamwork, maybe conflict resolution, maybe negotiating skills, those kinds of things. You might not know, but what will guide you is if you study the job advert before the time. That will give you an idea of maybe what they are asking for. And so with the STAR method, so I gave you the example now. And say, for example, we want to know conflict resolution or whatever. So you as a student, and what's nice is that you don't need to have worked worked in a team before. You could have done, I'm sure at university you do a lot, you can do teamwork projects and stuff like that, and even at school. So you can draw from those examples. And you can say, okay, so STAR, S is situation, right? So to answer that question, you need to tell us, what was the situation that you were in? So you can be like, yes, so I am a marketing student, and we needed to come up with a pitch for for this new earphones or whatever. And we were a group of 4 people, and we were a group of 4 people. So that's the situation. So that's the situation, right? Then we said, what's the task? So the task in the group was that, for example, the task was that we had to come up with a marketing strategy for these earphones. So that's the task. So now you've explained the situation, you've explained what the task is. So now the A, action. Okay, what did you do? What did you do? And that's actually what we're looking for. We want to know, how did you respond? How did you respond? But okay, so coming back to part of the situation was the fact that you had a team member, and they felt that that you should only market these earphones to male students, and you disagreed, and you actually felt that it should be male and female students. So that was the way you had sort of a disagreement. And now the action is, how did you deal with that situation? So how did you deal with that situation? You could be like, I didn't necessarily agree with this team member, and I didn't want to call this person out in front of the group, and so I took them aside, and I said, look, I actually feel that we should it should be for males and females, because then you're increasing your market or your audience as well, and I think we'll make more profit that way. Whatever the situation is, and how do you feel about it? So you see, you're showing us that you can work in a team. You're showing us that you're good at conflict resolution as well, and it's just like how you're not confrontational, or you deal with things. It just shows your manner of dealing with things, for example. And then your last one is your result. So what is your outcome? So what happened after you had a discussion? And then you can be like, and they don't necessarily need to agree with you. You can just say, what, we had the discussion, and my team member actually explained to me why they thought that only marketing to males would be better, and at the end we were both happy, and so, but at least we had the discussion and I felt heard, etc. So I know it took very long to explain that, but you'll be surprised at how quickly it will go.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for breaking that down. Thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah.
Remember, about the STAR method.
Yeah.
The situation, task, action, and results. I love it. Yes. I love it. Okay, a big part or difficulty with virtual interviews is connectivity, or our beloved load shedding schedule in this country, right? How does one deal with that? Because it is a reality, either the area you live in, or like I said, maybe the load shedding happens and it wasn't communicated beforehand, perhaps. How does an interviewee prepare for that, or at least communicate it to the recruiters so that a plan B can be made for the day of the interview?
So I think, firstly, I think let's talk, so there's 2 situations. So you can say the one situation would be where on the day it happens and it wasn't communicated. The other one can be where, it was communicated in the morning and your interview is like in the afternoon. So for that example, so for example, even for me, I knew that we were going to be chatting today. So even though I didn't get any notification, what I did was I went onto the app and I checked, are we getting load shedding today? And if we are, what time would that be? And is it going to interfere with, is there any chance that it would interfere with this interview? So that, what that shows is proactivity, that you're being proactive, you know. But so I'm saying that there are things that you could do in advance as well. You know, if you know you're going for an interview, you should actually do whatever you can, and that can be part of your preparation. Checking if that we're getting load shedding today, and if we are, what are the schedules? So, and if you didn't, and also if you do know that you're getting load shedding, immediately inform the recruiter or inform the company, so that they can actually then say, they can decide, okay, should we rather than reschedule, or should we rather than call you into our office and then you just follow the COVID protocols. So, but the key thing is here, you're being proactive, and what you're doing is you're actually giving the company enough time to make other plans, instead of like sort of jumping it on them like at the last minute, if you know what I mean. And they're a lot more understanding when it comes to that. But having said that, there are cases where you wouldn't know, or you're in an area where the lights just go off, or you know, you have bad signal and stuff like that. So in that case, is I think I mean, if you cannot, what you immediately inform the recruiter, see what they can do. Maybe you can ask to reschedule. Maybe if you see it's like an hour before the time, and maybe you can actually run to a family member or friend's house. If you are allowed to go into campus, go to the library, book a room, maybe chat to a tutor or somebody and ask, can I please book this room just for this time, because I know connectivity is going to be better here as well. So there are stuff you can do, you know, to not sort of let it impact your interview.
I like that. Be proactive and actually call the recruiter up and try and make a plan B should anything happen. I like that. Salary. So we don't just get jobs for the sake of getting jobs, right? Like a big part of it is to grow our skills, but also to make money so that we can live the life we want to live or help family members, etc. Is it a good idea to bring up salary in an interview? If yes, why? And if no, why not?
So yeah, so salary is always a very touchy topic, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I can give you my opinion on this. I think so. So if it's your first interview, I wouldn't bring it up, and my reason for that is there's still time to get to know you. They still need to find out about you and, you know, what you're about, what is your passions, are you a good fit? So strategically, I don't think it's a good idea to bring it up, especially if it's your first interview. I think it's the sort of more appropriate maybe towards the end of your second interview, if you know. The best time, I think, to bring it up is when you know that you are going to, that you're being considered and you're through to, you're one of the final candidates. But if you're going through a recruitment agency, they will be able to find out for you. So you can actually find out them already. And some job adverts do actually put it on, but not all companies would do that.
Okay. And if it is brought to you as a question, like how much do you expect to earn in this position or for this position, what is the best way to answer that question?
So I think the best way to answer that question is to say, I would like a market-related salary. And what that means is what if you have to like take an average of 100 companies out there for the same position with the same skills, what are they paying the people? What's the average of that? What are they paying the people? That's what the market-related salary means. And you say that it's just you can just say that, you know, it's just a fair. You think that that's just a fair method or fair way of paying. You know. Paying for what you're worth, basically.
Should you know, at least in your mind, what that range is, as opposed to just, so say market related, but what if they offer you an amount and you think that's what the market related amount is, but you haven't really done research? Where can people find information about how to find out what the range of the market related salary is?
So I think, so it is tough. Right, and I'll tell you that what you will find is that when you go and check, so when you go and check, you'll see that it's the same job title, but sort of, that the pay varies quite vastly. And it could be because the skills that are required in the one is not the same as the skills as the other one. And it could just be that some companies just have a budget and this is what they're willing to pay. So, and there's lots of different things. So I don't think you're going to really know exactly what that figure is. But I think what you can do, so there is a site called Pay Scale, but because that's going to be the first site that comes up, right? So just address that what it does give you some figures, but sometimes they can be like overinflated as well. So don't let that be your only guide. What I would tell you to do is maybe speak to recruitment agencies because they would have a better idea of what specific positions are paying. And then what I will also then do, and this takes work, but if you're looking for a job and you really want the best out of it, then you should be willing to actually do the work, because it's going to pay you at the end of the day. So I would actually look at a lot of the same jobs. Some of those adverts would give the salary, and you just sort of record, okay, so and you take the average of that, and it will give you some idea of what is the possible pay for a particular position. But it can vary, so just know that.
Okay. You mentioned something about recruiters, and I've always wondered if I decide to recruit a recruitment agency on my behalf to help me through this process, is there a fee attached to that? Basically, how do you know if a recruitment agency is legit? Do they ask you for money so that they can help you find a job, or do they get paid by the company? How does it work?
So this is like a very important question, and it's not only for students. I find it all the time. So number one is a recruitment agency will never ask the job seeker for money. They should never be asking. You should never be paying money towards. If you're paying money towards a recruitment agency, please let me know so that we can expose them on social media. Seriously, because I hear of these are scams. You should never be paying money to any agency or to any company to if you're applying for a job. How it does work and where those agencies do get their money is from the company that has employed their services. And the company won't pay them. They only pay them once the recruiter has placed somebody in the position. They found somebody and they signed. If you can do all of that work, if the person does not sign or they do not get offered the job, the recruitment agencies don't get paid at all. But never give anyone money to apply for the job. It's a scam.
Okay, so don't pay everybody. Do not pay for that service. Questions. It's we know that it's important. It shows that you've done your research into the company. You're showing interest into a company if you ask questions, and rather ask a question than not if you're given that opportunity towards the end. What are maybe the top 3 questions that you love to hear that potential employees ask during an interview?
So I think I would rather first tell you what I think would be most beneficial for the student to ask us. It might not be the ones that I like to hear, but I think the most beneficial for a student, for any job seeker, would be number one is what is the next steps in the recruitment process and what do the timelines look like. So why you ask that question is you want to know where you're at. You want to know how long must you wait. So for example, if you have another job offer, you want to know how long is this recruitment process going to, and what are all the things that still need to get done. And so, because sometimes you might find that you wait for like 2 weeks to a month and you don't hear anything, and then after a month they come back to you and they're like, oh, we want to move forward. So that gives you some idea of where you're at and what to expect in the recruitment process, and that helps with the nerves when you're like wondering, like, I haven't heard anything, what's going on. So that will help you as the job seeker.
Okay.
The second thing that I think would be a good thing to ask is and I think this is something that I like to hear as well. So it works both ways. So it would be, what are some of the things that this candidate or this person would need to do to be successful in this role?
Okay.
Because there you're showing that you're keen, that you're eager, that you want to know, that you want to know, how to do this job well. You're basically asking, what are some of the things that people need to have to do this job well? And that also gives you an idea of what are some of the things that would be expected from you, or how you can sort of excel. And I think the third thing to ask is, and that also will help you, well, I've got two more actually, but the one thing you can ask that will also help you is what is the company's culture like? And that could be a good thing to ask, because it's showing interest in the company from our perspective. But from a student's perspective, it is a good thing to ask, because you are trying to determine whether this is the environment that you want to work in. So in the same way that we are interviewing you, you can also interview us and find out, okay, they are interested in me, but is this the type of company that I want to work for? Does it align to my values? And so that will help you with that as well. And I think one more thing would be, and this will help the students more, is just, you haven't worked before, you don't know what the job entails, so a good question to ask is, what do the day-to-day activities for this role look like? So you will know, okay, so yes, so that gives you an idea of what are you going to be expected to do, what is your day going to look like, and it just gives you a better idea of what the job is about.
Thank you for those. Those are very, very helpful. So I have one more question for you, but I think before we get there, let's get to some of these comments and questions that people have left. If I don't get to your question or comment, we know that Lubna is very open to students contacting her. So please, feel free to do that, and she'll answer your questions. Okay, I'm just randomly going to pick one. Oh, Cynthia, if you're here, hi.
Hi, is Cynthia the person I spoke to last time?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Cynthia.
Okay, so the flame says, wow, you're going to make me read a whole situationship in Afrikaans. Let's see if my Afrikaans is good. Jou ek siek mis tuisbrei in Biltong. Dit gaan 2 jaar wees wat ek besoek het. Was in Dubai. So something about Dubai and Biltong and Braaiing in 2 years. The flame. But he or she has been so we talked about making sure that your outfits are ironed. Dombenje asks, how does one overcome stage fright? How can one relax in order to avoid any mistakes? Good question. So I think this is during the interview process. How do you not like avoid stage fright and all of that?
So I think also what's good, that's why I say the planning part is very important. So you want to try and avoid a lot of things that are going to make you stress. So like I say, that's why you make sure that you're there on time, that you've got enough time to breathe, to calm yourself down. I think also what helps is sort of just knowing, if you prepare, if you do the preparation, some of the steps that we're talking about, it will give you the confidence to know that you've done what you can. I think also asking for a glass of water, you should actually, because that helps breathing in, just trying to breathe in, breathe out, and, just before it starts, and to also not take it personally. Remember, this is it's not going to be a decision for the rest of your life, and sometimes, and whether, you do well or not, there's always going to be other interviews that you can go for. So don't be hard on yourself. I think what stresses people out is that they put so much pressure on this interview, and to kind of just to know that this is not the only interview. Tell yourself that I think self-talk helps a lot before. So rather you get there before the time, before you go in. I can do this. I've done my preparation work. It's now out of my hands. I can only give it my best shot. After this, there's nothing else I can do, but I can continue looking for other jobs and applying. And this is not a reflection of me as a person, but just sort of that kind of positive self-talk, removes those kinds of doubts as well, so that you don't And to be honest, also we can see when people are very nervous as well, and a lot of us would actually be very. We'll take that into consideration as well when we're speaking to people. So you can see, and it's okay. Like everyone, lots of people, most people get nervous. Everyone I think gets nervous, but I think just to not put that extra pressure on yourself.
Right. Thank you for that. Bulelani asks, do I really have to have a question or a say at the end of the interview?
Okay, so you don't really have to have a say. You don't have to. And sometimes what happens is the interview runs till the end, like all the questions, and then there isn't time to sort of ask those questions. But I would encourage you to ask at least one question, and that's just because it shows keen interest in the company.
Okay.
But if you feel like you're too nervous and you can't, then don't. But I think it's something that shows that keen interest. And remember, it's all about perception and leaving a good impression. And I think that it's an opportunity for you to leave a good impression.
Okay. LaFlame787, should one ask about the package and incentives? And I'm guessing that this is during like a salary related discussion or anything like that. Is it a good idea to ask about packages and incentives?
So yes, when they are sort of going through that, we're looking at when it's gone through to the offer stage as well, you need to, before you sign, you need to understand what you're getting, what the package consists of. And you should not sign until you actually understand what you're getting. And I can actually tell you, but this is like a student sort of mistake. It was the person's first job. And so I work in payroll as well. So one of the sort of graduates, contacted us after the first month. They were like, hello, I got short paid this month. And we're like, okay, fine, send me your pay slip, I will investigate. And, we couldn't see anything. And we're like, okay, can you explain, like, what do you mean you got short paid? We've checked the payroll journals, everything looks right. They're like, no, my salary was, for example, 5,000 Rand, and I only got 4,300 Rand. So, guys, you're going to get taxed. It's called taxes. It's the government takes their share before you get. So just know that what you see your base salary is not what you're going to come home with. There's deductions as well. So it's important to take that into account.
Thank you for mentioning that. I'm just so shocked. Like, oh, I'm going to get 5,000, and they come back like, wait, no, they 700. Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, we were accused of stealing money from the merchants. We're like, no, you need to take it up with the government. They are taking your money.
I love it. Anzo asks, could you please advise on body language when it comes to an interview, such as hand gestures? That's a very good question, Anzo.
So yeah, I mean, I actually like you'll see, I'm always moving around and stuff. I think I mean, unless it's distracting, it's fine that if you talk with your hands and stuff like that, it's really fine. I think it's just at the point where it's like this. If I do this while I'm talking to you, I think that's too distracting. You won't be able to hear what I'm trying to tell you. So kind of making sure that it's not a distraction. But importantly, and this is where virtual interviews become a bit of a difficulty, is that we rely on your body language and we rely on your facial expressions. And so it's really, we really, really, really want to do the video call, and not do an audio call. And so, I mean, it's quite, we look at that as well. So body language is very important. It tells us things about you that, you might not necessarily say, but we can see it. And I mean, even from your body language, we can tell, okay, this person's nervous, so very important.
My colleague Mbali says, hi Mbali.
Hi.
That question was answered. Bulelani, in this case, you are at home. Will it be acceptable to have a cup of Jacobs or a glass of water during the interview?
Okay, that's actually a very good question, because I actually wanted to, and I think I also just want to, because we're talking about virtual interviews as well, and there's a few other things that you can do to prepare for that. So let me first answer the question around the coffee, drinking. I think also when you're having a face-to-face, a virtual interview, very important, keep a glass or a bottle of water with you so that you can actually, if you're talking for a full hour, your throat gets dry. So it's important to actually keep that because you don't want to choke midway through the interview, and, it's just very distracting for you and for the interviewer. So keep that water there. But I would strongly discourage any sort of munching chips while you're having an interview. I actually know of a situation where somebody was busy eating while that's not cool, guys. Just seriously, imagine if I come with my double crunch KFC burger and I'm let me think about this question. No, it's like me wearing the hoodie to the interview. No,
right.
Just don't do that.
Common sense is clearly not that common in these streets, unfortunately. Thank you for that. No, don't eat, y'all. The glass of water is fine. Don't bring food. Don't.
Yes.
Moving asks, is it good? Is going over the interview time during the interview an indicator of a good or bad interview? I think that might be. You might feel nervous that you spoke too little or too much. That's a good question. Is it an indicator of a good or bad interview?
So that depends, right? So if we've gone over the time and we haven't actually finished all the questions because you were waffling for a lot of the times, then that's a bad indication because you weren't able to manage your time properly and maybe you didn't even answer some of the questions or you sort of, waffled. So that would be a bad thing. But if we've asked all the questions that we're asking you extra questions, then that's showing that we are very interested in you and we want to know more. So it actually depends. And I can tell you that even I once sat in an interview where the candidate, I asked the first question, which was tell us about your career to date. The first question, and it took 20 minutes out of a 60-minute interview to answer that one question.
Wow.
And actually, I was I didn't want to intervene because I told you because we know that they're focusing, so we want them to talk and you don't want to break their concentration. But after 15 minutes, I was hang on here, listen, I thank you for that. I'm just cognizant of time, blah blah blah,
yes.
And then it still continued. So that is not a good indication. Yeah.
Wow.
So
it just sounds like that person was not very aware of themselves and how they answer questions or are with people. They probably do that in normal day conversations where you ask a simple question and it takes 3 months for him to answer that simple question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Everyone is cracking up on your burger example. Having the KFC.
I'm a KFC fan girl, so that's why I always like to use KFC as example.
One more question, and then we can get out of here, and you can give us your contact details on how students can contact you. The Flame, it's not a question per se. I think it's more of a comment in terms of, and I think it's a good one. People getting enough sleep the night before. What implications does not resting the night before have on the day of the interview?
So I'll tell you in terms of your preparation, what is good if you prepare till the night before, because when you sleep, your brain processes throughout the day and it helps with your memory and your concentration, those kinds of things. So if you prepare before the time and then you sleep, it kind of solidifies that information. So that's how sleep benefits you. But if you find that you didn't sleep well, which can happen because you're so nervous, don't. I mean, you know what? It's okay. You are human. You do your best. You sometimes when you're so nervous, then you run on adrenaline, and you'll be surprised at how awake you are in the interview. I've never had a candidate that was sort of falling asleep because you're forced to be in an environment that you need to. But that sort of touches on why having a good night's rest would help you.
And that's a tip for everyday life, everybody, not just for interviews, for everyday life. Get a good night's rest as much as you possibly can. Lubna, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your input. We have uploaded an article that she has written for us. Please go through to our UJ Career Wiz portal, but also Lubna's website, which she'll give information on just now. Please, can you provide us, if students want to contact you directly or want to, ask questions after are watching this live, how can they do that? How can they get in contact with you?
So I happy to chat. So I have a website, so it's loobna.com, so LOOBNA.com, or you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. It's at Loobna_HR as well. So happy to chat on there. I'm always posting like job search tips, writing articles, those kinds of things, having these kinds of discussions as well. So, happy for you guys to sort of follow and join and let me know what you enjoy. Lucy, I actually do have one more thing that I want to sort of bring up about virtual interviews that I think is very important. And that is in terms of preparation. So I said like preparation is quite similar for face-to-face and a virtual interview. But the one thing that's not the same is the fact that, with the face-to-face interview, you're going to the company, you're meeting them there. But with a virtual interview, you are basically inviting them into your own home. So as you can see, that's what we're doing right now. And so that's very important to understand because, for example, there might be noises if you have kids or younger siblings and they're playing the TV in the background, which I literally had that one very senior candidate, and he was doing a technical assessment on Zoom or on Teams, and I had to mute him because I couldn't concentrate with the TV in the background, and he was busy doing, this poor man was doing his technical assessment. I couldn't actually fathom how he was concentrating. So you know what, the interview is almost just an hour. I'm sure you let your family members and friends know, I'm going for an interview right now, I need some quiet. Mute your phone, put your phone on silent so that doesn't distract you either. So it's about creating an interview-friendly environment. So, for example, I know that, checking what your background looks like. You don't want your laundry, sort of hanging out there and, in the background, because instead of the recruiters focusing on you, they're going to be like, oh, what is that? Is that a bra out there? Like, so just make sure that you know what your background, be cognizant of your background. In terms of noise, be cognizant of that. Give people a heads up. Tell them to help you, prepare for the interview in the sense that making sure that all of these things are okay, so that you are equipped to do your interview.
Thank you for that. That's actually a very good tip. The background clear, know the area clear, just communicate with the people in your life. I see people here are requesting for your email. Are you open for that?
So they can send it to info@loobna.com.
Okay. I will also be putting all of these links that she's mentioned, everyone, in the description once this uploads onto Instagram. So don't worry about that if you were not able to catch it now. Loobna, thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. All the best with the meeting that you now have to jump into. But we really appreciate you speaking to the youth and, giving back in terms of information that many of us generally didn't have prior to the world of work. So we really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me and also for doing this. I think that it's very valuable, and I wish I had, something like this to kind of help prepare me when I was like an unemployed graduate. So I'm really happy that we have platforms like this to help our students.
Thank you so very much. All right, everyone. We'll see you all next week for our next Work Integrated or Work Readiness Program topic. Join us then, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks for tuning in.